Ladies and gentlemen, our opening ceremonies are over, and now we focus our attention on the business side of this conference. We start with a talk by Dr. Abdul Hadi Al-Khalili titled Higher Education in Iraq, Past, Present, and the Future.
If you plan for 1 year, plant rice. If you plan for 10 years, plant trees. And if you plan for 100 years, educate mankind. A Chinese proverb. Education started in Mesopotamia, in Iraq, where these temples, they had schools to teach writing, to teach education in general, where schools started. And after that, Iraq went through the Islamic and Arab culture, and then we have so many distinguished Arab Muslim people there. They contributed a lot to humanity and science. Mustansiriya University is one example, which was established in 1233, that's 403 years prior to Harvard. And then Iraq went through difficult times, dark ages, and then emerged again as a modern country at the beginning of the 20th century. When we have the School of Law established in 1908, last year, in fact, they celebrated their centenary, and then School of Medicine established 1927, and Baghdad University started at 1956. We went through many difficult times where the basket of leaders up was here, and you can imagine what was the basket like. We had 40 graduate students at UC Berkeley in the 40s, amongst other universities in the US. So you can imagine what sort of thinking and vision was at that time. Unfortunately, at each political event, political setback, the basket loses lots of its contents. Many academics and professional scientists, with each event, they just fade from services and from the active contribution. In 1979, we had what is called by the medical literature as the Medical City Massacre, where 50 of our leading professors in medicine were just dismissed from service for no reason at their climax of productivity. In 1976 and around, we had some inflow of people coming there just to help academia and science community there, but otherwise there was no increase to the basket, and the basket got problems with the killing, kidnapping, and displacement over the years since 2003 got worse. And in fact, just an example to give you on that, we have more than 300 faculty were killed, amongst many kidnapped, and 50% of those killed were professors. So you can imagine what sort of disaster the higher education was going through. And now, in 2008, we have now the coming back and moving forward, and we hope things are going in the right direction and things are improving, especially so improving in the north of the country, in Kurdistan, Iraq. You have flourishing universities. The safety there is much better, at least in the past 2 years, 3 years, and many people were there serving Iraq through the help and support of Kurdistan. The problems to address in this is the faculty problems, and that's one of the problems, the killing and displacement and leaving the country. The curriculum, we have problem with curriculum, problem with teaching methods, problem with labs, with research, libraries, campus. Everything really was in a difficult status. We have now 24 universities, 18 private universities and colleges, 12 technical schools, and 27 colleges, and they are on the increase. We have one in Najaf started, one in Baghdad, one in Sulaimaniya, this American University in Sulaimaniya, which will hopefully to serve as a reference university to other universities in its standard and its methodology of teaching. Our aim in this, in general, is to improve current universities, to establish world-class universities and consider the vertical and horizontal proposals. We think this is probably one of the way of thinking how to improve higher education in Iraq. Improve current universities, which is the objective of this conference. We explore the means. In panel 1, we have 3 panels on this conference. Panel 1 will have the exploring of means of supporting, improving higher education, develop active cooperation between U.S. and academic and education institutions. And we can do this through having opportunities for Iraqi professors, faculties to come here, to have sabbatical year, to have research opportunities, to have courses, training programs, whatever helpful to improve the standard of the current university services. And in the future, we hope things will be better, and then people from here can go there and contribute, like Professor Shehbaz. He went to Suleimaniya, and he has a wonderful course with other colleagues from US and UK to train all the agriculture people in there, coming from Basra, from Baghdad, from everywhere, to Suleimaniya to have the course in agriculture. And he's going, I think, on Wednesday again to do this. And we have many other friends and colleagues going to the north, the middle, to the south to contribute, but of course on a very small scale. We hope in the future it will be on a very large scale. Panel 2 will make recommendations and help in changing the current curriculum, which is teacher-based, and we have to change it like everywhere else in the developed world to be student-based. And also to implement new means of education, the e-learning, the internet-based education system, and all the digital way of teaching. In panel 3, we identify key fields for expanded expertise in social sciences, humanities, cutting-edge technology, others. We have this ambitious project next year, which the Prime Minister has announced last May in NAFSA meeting, the International Meeting for Higher Education, and he is, and his office is heading and leading program of 10,000 scholarship programs for 5 years, for the coming 5 years, very ambitious and very useful as investment for the future of Iraq. And in this panel, we are going to suggest what specialties we would like these students to go with, because we've been away from the outside world. We don't know exactly what we need for the current era, for the current time. We think that medicine and engineering and computer are the prime important topics for society, but in fact there are so many other topics which are as important or sometimes more important to run the society in the best possible way. In establishing world-class universities, we have a good example in the Middle East, the American University of Beirut. It served since 1885, when it was established, served as a reference point for all the universities in the area. So people would like to match or to reach or to go in the direction of the American University in Beirut. So having world-class universities in Iraq is not reinventing the wheel, because we have now in the Emirates, in Egypt, and in Suleimaniya starting, of course, we have now this experiment been exploited, and we know that how important, how useful it is. So we think that this is one avenue where we can improve our work. The other thing is consider the vertical and horizontal proposal. We know that in the developed countries, we have the depth of knowledge is highly developed, and the breadth of knowledge, again, is highly developed. But in our countries, the depth of knowledge, we call it the vertical knowledge, is very minimal, and the horizontal knowledge is very minimal. So what we propose is to consider having specialties in, for instance, in neurosurgery, my line, there are so many specialties, you just take one specialty, like going to the pituitary gland through the nose as a specialty, and get a team from Iraq, qualified neurosurgeons, with an anesthetist, with whatever they want, the anesthetist, the nurse, the technician. They come to the best center here and they train in that field. And then in a year's time, they can go back and they master their job, and they can start and compete with others in that field. Same thing in humanities, same thing in engineering. Cement engineering, for instance, we get civil engineers from Iraq with their team. They come to the best centers for cement engineering, and they learn the trade in a year or 2 years or half a year, whatever required, And then when they go back, everything should be set for them, set by strategy, by the government, so they can from day one start as on the basis they have been trained on. And then in 20 years, each year will have some more subspecialties, and I think we can reach up to a good standard in those specialties in these 20 years or so. In the meantime, the horizontal, those guys who go for the subspecialties, the nurse will learn how to write a report, the technician will learn with the machine properly, and then they will teach others who have not been outside the country and teach them. So you get horizontal improvement and then a very useful and important vertical improvement in these specialties, and they will be increased year by year. And this can be done also helped by creating, and we hope this is one of the outcomes of our conference here, creating committees. At one level, we start with departmental committees. All the teachers, faculty of physics in Iraq, they come together, represented by some. And the physics, Iraqi Americans here who are in physics, they come together, and then there will be one or two representing them, and they communicate with each other to improve the standard of physics in Iraq. Same thing with geography, same thing with solar energy, same thing with physiology. So we get at the level of department people in Iraq represented by some small group, and they communicate with the group in the United States. And then through these Iraqis, they can communicate with all physiologists or solar energy specialists in US. And then we go to higher level, or to another level, which is college committee. All the medical schools in Iraq, they come together, represented by one or two deans, and then they can communicate with the AAMC, American Association of Medical Colleges here, and they can communicate and can improve the level of curriculum, of standard, of teaching, of health, whatever. Colleges of agriculture, they come together. Colleges of engineering, they come together. And then to another level, we come to universities, where we have sister schooling between different universities between Iraq and US. And then there will be a virtual global community of experts who will oversee over this and then will help organizing these three levels together. And they will know the needs in Iraq, and they know what's available here. And we'll have outside universities help from societies, foundations, academies, and then they communicate to their American counterparts. I've met many academics, in many institutions here in US, at many universities, and all of them, they are eager to help, and they are eager to support, and we would like really to get their help and support and expertise. And just to end with this Greek American architect who designed this entrance of Baghdad University. And these represent this is an arch with 4 lanes of cars go underneath, and the arch has a gap there at the top. And each part of the arch is the cerebral hemisphere of the brain, and the gap is there, and this is called the open mind, and the gap will never end, will never fill. So we always learn. And we have our website, the Iraqi culture-usa.org, and I think that will be a good resource for help and communication. And thank you very much.